I've seen a video of yours where you said that feminism has conditioned black women to view black men as the enemy.
It has. Feminism was financed by the CIA. Gloria, what was her name? Gloria Steinem, I think she was.
Right, yeah.
Mother of modern feminism, because traditional feminism goes back to the 1800s, right? With Susan B. Anthony and those white supremacists. But Gloria Steinem was a CIA agent. They financed her. Her first feminist magazine they paid for. The CIA brought feminism into the white household to get the woman out the house and into the black household to turn the black woman against the black man. To scapegoat us for problems caused for her by white supremacy.
So, obviously, a big thing, obviously, we spoke about the gender wars, earlier. Obviously, there's a lot of conversation nowadays about, the value of what a woman brings and the value of what a man brings in a relationship. And now there's a lot more rhetoric from our women that we hear is, I'm strong, independent, I don't need no man, right? So,
that's pain speaking, though.
Right.
Because most black women know they will never get a man. A black woman can have sex whenever she wants.
Right.
Because she's beautiful. She can have a bed mate, but to have a soul mate, she may never get. I have two daughters, 11 and 20, right? My oldest will be 21 this week. Statistically, right? There's a strong chance my daughter could be one of those. I hope she's not. She could be one of those who never get a husband because only 1 out of 4 gets a husband. You see that?
Hey guys, and welcome to Little Black Bird 91. Woken up this morning to have a conversation about Dr. Umar and his conversation around who's responsible for the carnage within the black community. Who's responsible? Is it black men, black women? Who's responsible for the carnage at the moment? And he comes out saying that black men are failing. They are failing the community. And so I want to have a real conversation about this because I think this is really insightful, what he talks about. It sparks a debate between individualism and being corporately or community led, and which one of us is right. He believes, I think, more community based, but I think that both can exist, and I think both can be true. I think we need to look at all different angles to the situation, but I would say that there are multiple layers to this conversation. Okay, there are multiple layers to this conversation. So, if you are new to the channel, then do me a massive favor, like it, share, subscribe, click on that bell button for notification of the uploads. We appreciate you guys. Stay locked and stay loaded. And just as well, guys, don't forget, look at this. Oh, I brought you something different. You know what I'm saying? Mineral Gang, because you know what it is, baby. Okay, make sure you grab your merchandise down below. Okay, get your hoodie. You know what I'm saying? Get your clothing, get your little piece of merchandise. Okay, and join the gang. Okay, don't leave me hanging here. All right, go and get your merch. We appreciate you. There's a link down below. Click it, use it, and get acquainted with the gang. Now, talking about this particular situation, I think what's really intriguing about this is, if I'm honest with you, right? If I'm honest with you, I think my original point of view on this situation is that there are multiple layers to this conversation. Not only is there multiple layers to the conversation, let's take my hat off. Not only is there multiple levels to the conversation, I really do believe that when you're talking about helping the community, you don't need everybody, right? You don't need everybody. You need the ones who are going to help further along this conversation, which is that there is 20% that you need and 80% usually follows after, right? So we're going to start from there. We're going to listen a bit more to the conversation, and then we'll break down some more stuff.
Okay. So when the black woman says, I don't need a man, that is a reaction to the reality that I may not get a man.
So why not preach? Because I understood, you're obviously against interracial relations when it comes to black men with black women. With white women.
With all women. You should only be with the black woman.
And you will say, well, if you can't find a good woman in America, there's
somewhere else.
In
Absolutely.
Africa. So why not teach that same rhetoric to our women? Like if you feel
I tell sisters all the time, go to Africa. So I know sisters who marry. I just spoke with a sister. She invited me to the wedding. She just married a brother from the continent.
So, but instead of saying they will never get married,
I'll take sisters to Africa who married brothers they met in Africa.
Right.
So yeah,
I think there's obviously plenty of black men,
yes,
black women So
And what I
instead of
also
saying that
tell
they'll
black
never
women,
get
if you're going to
married,
go get you an African man from the continent,
right?
you're going to have to understand that the way in which you talk to black men in America will not be tolerated over there.
Why the fuck? But it's not tolerated here. That's what we're trying to tell them.
Well,
and let's pause it right here. Now he's gonna make a point about. In fact, let me make a point, and then I'll start first.
Over here, I want to say this to us though, because we try to act like the way sisters treat us doesn't have a history that we are not at least partly responsible for.
Let's pause it right here. I understand what he's saying, right? There is a history. There is we have years of what we've gone through and established, and pain, and disappointment, hurt, all that kind of stuff. But I also understand where the brothers are coming from, right? How can we advocate that when you go and speak to the African brothers, quote unquote, to speak, brothers from the continent, how come you're advocating that they have to speak to that man in a particular way, but you don't advocate? Well, let me say this: like you're not being as strong right now and saying that's the exact same way they should behave with the brothers who are in the same country as them, right? Which is you admitting that there's an issue with the way that the sisters talk. If you're pre-warning them that there's a way to talk to the African brothers, it means you already disagree with the way that they originally talk. Now, I'm not here to support either the men or the women. I'm here to go down the line and say what the truth is, a truth, right? Of course, I'm a man, so I'm going to have some bias anyway within that spectrum. But the reality of the situation is, if you're advocating that the sisters should check how they speak if they're going to speak to the African brothers, then you need to advocate that for how they speak to the brothers in this country. Right? Now, irrespective of whether there's a history there or not, it makes no difference, because right now, how you're showing up is how people are going to react to you. Right? I'm not saying that there isn't a history. It's like me being in UK, right? It's like me being in UK and we have our sisters saying, UK men are sassy, black men UK are sassy, they're this and that. I don't date them, I date men from other places. All right, cool. But if then we give you advice that you have to speak to the African brothers in a particular way, but you don't do that for the very people that you're in the same town as, one, you're short-circuiting your own options. Number two, how do you change something that you've always been doing, right? And number three, why would we separate that you can talk to the African brothers this way, but not the brothers that you're in your own country the same way? Do you get what I'm saying to you? Right? So in reality, this is not a good advocation. Now, I know he's about to make a point, and I understand the point, the history, the fact that, yes, brothers have been involved in making mothers single mothers, and yes, and I'm not disagreeing with that. And I'm not against that at all. Okay, we're not against that at all. What I'm saying is, it is not good to keep it just, well, the African brothers, you gotta watch how you speak to them, because they don't tolerate that stuff. Why would anybody tolerate anything the way that you speak? If you know that the way you speak is wrong, why would anybody tolerate that? Do you get what I'm saying to you? It's not a blame. It's an observation of behavior. And if you advocate for them to change how they speak because they're talking to African brothers, I'm also insulted. Why would you only want to change it for the African brothers? You get what I'm saying to you? It's nuts. You know what I mean? It's nuts. So for me personally, I wouldn't be advocating this particular aspect of advice, because it should be both ways. Right? How you speak is how you speak. Whether it's an African brother, whether it's a European brother, whether it's this brother, check how you talk. Yeah? Check how you talk. You feel what I'm saying to you? Right? You may be able to solve some of your issues by actually checking the way you talk. I'm not saying that they're talking badly per se. I'm going based upon the point that's made. Okay? All right? I'm going based upon the way that about the point that they've made here about speaking, right? Specifically. It helps nobody just to say that when you speak to African brother, you can't do the things that you do in America. That makes no sense. And then for the same thing, and look, if they came up, the point would be, as a black man too, how do you speak to your woman? You guys know already, I spoke about this before. You should be speaking life into your woman. There is no reason for you to be now coming trashing and destroying and hurting and trying to break down the woman. No, you should be speaking life into her. And if she doesn't want to listen to your life speaking, go where you're loved and go where someone's going to receive your life speaking. Right? So it can go on any level for either men or women. But the point was being made for the women, and Dr. Umar making his point, okay, all right, about how they speak. And for me personally, I don't agree with that. Right? I don't agree with that. I definitely understand that, yes, the African brothers won't tolerate certain things. Absolutely, we won't, right? Because we come from a completely different patriarchy. And I shouldn't say different. How it shows up in Africa is different to how it shows up in America now, right? So, and so that's the reality of the situation, which is why it goes back to what I said. I said this a few weeks ago on another live. I said your respect and your submission is not based upon me making more money than you. If that's what your submission is based upon, when I stop making money, you'd stop respecting me. That person does not respect you. And I'll say this for any man dating any woman. If she only respects you because you flashed the moolah, you got a problem. And she's got a problem. Right? But let me speak to the men specifically. If you have to splash the moolah in order for her to say, I now submit, you've got a problem on your hands. Because the moment the money dries up, she don't respect you no more. She should respect you because she looks at you and respects you as an individual person. Say, this is a person I can love and I can respect. Man, them don't be choosing these women that only respect you because you flashed the moolah. Right? I've said this already. Right? If you choose that kind of woman, you're at fault. Stop choosing women that only respect you because of the moolah. And if you're a woman too, and you only submit because he makes more money than you, then I'm going to tell you this now. When the money dries up, your disrespect's going to come out. Right? Your disrespect's going to come out. If your submission is based upon who makes the most money, I can guarantee you now, when the money starts rolling in, your disrespect is about to kick in. Yeah? That's the honest truth. Caden Pat said, oh, sorry, hold on. Let me answer this question. Why do women have to submit to men? What kind of sexist BS is Kojo pushing? Well, if you followed me long enough, you know that I come from a Christian perspective. So my perspective is one from a Christian perspective. So when we say women submit to men, we mean in the terms of respect. In the terms of he is your leader, right? And he should lead in love. If someone leads in love, it means they cherish the way they lead, and they make sure that their decision making is for the betterment of the whole entire family, not just themselves. So I'm saying to you that from a Christian perspective, this is what I believe. If you don't believe that, that's fine, but that's what I'm going to preach. On here, I'm gonna preach that, and it's not sexist at all, coming from the perspective that I'm coming from at all. Right? So if you don't believe in that perspective, I totally understand. It's not sexist. You just don't have my perspective, right? I've never spoken in a way that would demean a woman or say that when she submits to any kind of man. No, we're talking about good leadership here. Men that care about the people that they actually lead, right? You don't cry in your workplace when you have a good leader, because the leader respects you and thinks about you when he or she makes a decision. But in relationships, when we're talking about, you do want your man to be a leader. Like, it's not even sexist. Women get tired of even leading these relationships. So this is not even, take the Christian aspect out of it. You get tired when you are consistently having to lead a man. Can we just keep it a buck and keep it true? Can we keep that true? Right? You ran straight to the sexism, and you downright know that women get tired when they have to lead. So let's stop that nonsense. Let's kill that straight away. Right? Kill that. End it. Finish it. Let's get past that. Right? We don't have to argue about certain things like that. Now, when we're saying about men, every man should lead, no, because some men are not good as leaders, and that's why we're saying that they don't need to be in those positions. You know what I mean? Yeah. All right. Okay, so let's go back into the video as well. All right, cool.
Let's be honest. The black woman has had to hold down the black house by herself, although imperfectly. She's had to do it by herself since the mass incarceration of black males began in the 1970s. You understand me? Most of our children are raised by a single mother right now. And it has been that way for about 50 years. So when a sister says, I don't need a man, because she couldn't find one strong enough to hold her down. Or when you meet a woman and you say, sister, I'm strong enough to be your man. You ain't got to work or you ain't got to pay the bills or whatever. Pull back. I got you. And she can't do it because all the other men before you who disappointed her. So what I'm saying is, black man,
now pause here. Okay, I think this is a really good point to start talking about. First and foremost, I haven't checked the numbers from 1970 in terms of mass incarceration, right? But I'm with you. I'm tired of that too. Personally, I'm tired of that because that is not the only reason why people are not in the homes, right? Now, it's a part of the reason, right, that people are not in the homes, but it's not the reason why why men are not in the homes. Let's keep it a buck. Let's keep it honest. Men have abandoned their posts because, and he's going to touch on it later on anyway, right? We really have to have a real conversation. Mass incarceration might be part of it, but the reality is when you're under attack systematically, which is what he's talking about, right? It affects men specifically when they don't want to fight no more. Here's a real conversation we have to have, right? When you've been fighting for so long, and for instance, when we talk about, let's say, the Martin Luther King, the Malcolm X era, what you would have seen is that you had a common enemy, and the enemy was very visible. When you're in that state, you have to fight, you have to fight, you have to fight, you have to fight. The problem is once that enemy gets removed, once there's an idea of, is it annexion? It might be annexion. It's a slow progress, right? A bit like what Israel is doing in Palestine, right? When there's a slow progress, right? People get into what I like to call it the luxury mode. And in that space, what happens is if you don't deal with you're now slowing down. You're no longer fighting. You're no longer physically fighting. If you don't take account of your mental aspect that's happened after you've had to fight, the PTSD that travels through the generations and the people, now that you're no longer physically fighting for your life. And I know we are physically fighting in some aspects, but what I'm talking about is that you're now fighting systematically. The fight becomes different. The men give up, right? And I wouldn't say men give up. The men stop fighting the fight because it's not the same fight, right? It's a different type of fight, right? Fighting fatigue. I like that. I like that, Z. Probably a better word to say, a fighting fatigue, right? And because now the enemy is not literally grabbing and lynching you and trying to kill you that way, they're now trying to finish you through systematic means. You start to see that, oh, we're making progress. Right. So now I don't have to fight as hard like I used to. But now what happens is you have more time to think. And for me, this is me personally, my opinion. In that time we have to think. Unfortunately, if you don't deal with your mental in that aspect, you're going to struggle. See, you're no longer running on cortisol. You're no longer running on the adrenaline. You're no longer running knowing that, you know what, I have to look behind me, whatever. Once those battles start to subside and start to die down and the battlefront changes to systematic warfare, right? People have to start dealing with themselves. You're actually carrying wounds. You've actually been fighting. The people that survived have been fighting on the battlefield, but they're carrying wounds, but they can't see the wounds. So it's much more different. Right. And so, yes, mass incarceration is part of it, but the mental atrocities and the mental fatigue and the mental injuries that many of these black men have suffered, and the generations pass on some of their rhetoric and the disillusion of seeing society and not having hope, it does a lot to a black man. That's not an excuse. I'm giving that more as a reason, not as an excuse. Not as an excuse, as a reason, right? And so unfortunately, we've got a big issue. When it comes to our society at the moment. If men don't lead your society, the society falls. It suffers big time because men are called to be leaders. When your men don't lead effectively, it does suffer. And we are suffering in the black community because we don't. And when I say leadership, we're going to talk about some real stuff here. We don't need everybody. Like, you don't need everybody. You've never needed everybody, right? You've never needed everybody, right? That's a good point. That's a good point. That's a very good point, right? You've never needed everybody. Right? So you only need 20. I love the rule 80-20. You need 20%. If you can get the 20% to lead effectively, the 80% follow. You don't need everybody. You never did. Martin Luther King never had the whole black community and every single person doing exactly what he needed them to do. He never did, right? He needed 20% committed people. And that's what we're lacking at the moment. We need that 20%. Okay, all right, and the rest follows after. Now it's very tough to get that going because you're facing so many different factors as well. You know, many factors. Jay Sweet said, "We're not. What about now though? We aren't in those times. We're still fatigued. The reality of the situation is we're still fatigued in this day and age. We are still fatigued. We are tired." And not only are we tired, when those who are trying, he talks about his situation trying to buy a school, right? When you do try to do certain things going forward, you are met with systematic oppression, right? You are met with systematic oppression. Now, I'm not saying it's impossible to do. I'm saying it slows down the situation of growth, right? If you give us a little bit of food, it's almost like Egypt. It's almost like Israel in Egypt all over again. When Israel began to leave Egypt, when they got to they were getting to the going towards the promised land, right? It should have been a 40-day journey. But because of their fatigue, because of their over-reliance on the system, their over-reliance on Egypt, their over-reliance on their slavery, right? The first group of adults couldn't make it into the promised land. The reason being is because they wanted to go back. You know why? Because they weren't used to provision being provided for them. They were used to, and when I say that, I mean in the sense of they weren't used to God providing for them in that time. They were used to men to Egypt fighting for them, right? They were used to Egypt fighting for them and providing them and giving them food and literally feeding them hand to mouth, right? They were so used to their slavery that when they got into the wilderness, they could not actually comprehend the fact that God would release food every single day and all they had to do was go and pick it up. In fact, they started complaining, saying, you know, when we were in Egypt, we had X, Y, and Z. Now we are suffering only having one type of bread or one type of food, not realizing the promised land was coming. I feel like that's where we are as a black community, right? You release you're fighting for your oppression. You're fighting to be free. The Israelites were fighting. They were crying about the fact they needed a leader to lead them out of Egypt, right? To lead them out of Egypt. And instead of actually then believing in the plan and staying true to it, as soon as they got a little bit of freedom, they wanted to go back, right? They wanted to go back. Okay, so I see you guys got some questions as well. Some people in the space got it as well. Okay. I'm making excuses. Black women are not fatigued. I didn't say any excuses. I said a reason. I think some of you need to really understand English when I say something. It's not an excuse. It is a reason. I'm not giving them excuses. I'm giving reasons as to why they may have downed tools. Let's separate the two. See, I think you're initiate. I think what people do sometimes, they want to be able to hit someone over the head so quickly. And this is a part of our community's issue. We're so quick. We want to be able to hit people. We want to be able to say, you the problem. And I'm like, yo, I was given a reason, not an excuse. I was not saying that they should be excused. I was not saying they should be excused. I was given a reason as to why they may be fatigued and that there are things that are facing them. I have not said that they should be at the position they should be. I'm saying here's a reason why they could be where they are at the moment. So it's not an excuse. It's a reason why they could be here, right? And if we're talking about the things that are facing us, I am not saying that black men shouldn't be better. They shouldn't be better, and they shouldn't be where they should be better off than where they are. I'm giving a reason for why we are the way they are. You know how I do all the time. This is how I talk. I break things down. We go to root analysis cause. That's what we do around here, right? It's not an excuse. It's not an excuse. Okay. All right. So, let's see. But why did I give up? I think we're fighting fatigue. I think we all have fighting fatigue. Yeah, look, and again, listen, right? You know, this is there are some areas that we need to improve as black men. You know, there's some areas because And the reason why I say is because once you stop fighting, like David, King David, when he stopped fighting, he went to the balcony to overlook the glory that he had. I'm so sorry. David went to look at the balcony, to stand at the top of the balcony to see how great his work was. And when he did that, that was the day that he fell. That's the day that he saw Bathsheba, and from there it spiraled down, right? Once you stop fighting, when the work hasn't been done, right, what you'll realize is you'll always be overcome, right? Because the thing that's behind you is still running, it's still chasing. And so, yes, I can say this straight. Yes, we are all fatigued, Black men and Black women. Okay, we are all fatigued. How this affects us is in different ways, and Black women are taking their opportunity. And I've said this before. I said, when you give Black women the opportunity to excel, when you push them, when you provide opportunities for them, they're going to take it. Because if they've been disenfranchised for a very long time, the people that have been disenfranchised, when you give them a chance, they usually take it and run with it, right? If you give them a chance, they'll run with it and take with it. The same thing happens even in UK, right? We invite Eastern Europeans in. Do you know how they work? They don't work like us, man, right? We thought Africans work hard. Invite the Eastern European to your country. The way they work is different. Do you know why? Because they realize the opportunity. Sometimes you are the frog in the pan and you don't realize the pan is heating up. But if the frog was to see the pan from the outside and see how it heated up, the frog wouldn't jump in the pan. But the frog that's in the pan doesn't realize the pan is slowly heating up until it's too late, right? So sometimes when you're outside of something and you can jump in, you can see that, yeah, nah, I'm going to see it differently. And I think that, and I've said this before, I think with Black women specifically, they have been given an opportunity not to be disenfranchised anymore, and they're taking it and run with it, right? There are systematic things that play a part in this, but I want to be real. You've taken your chance and you run with it, right? Now, it's also on us as Black men to now see that, hey, look, we need to wake up, right? We need to wake up. And that only requires 20% of people. It doesn't need everybody. We need to wake up and we need to do what we need to do, right, within our community. So, you know, that's also important as well. Okay. That's a fair point. Yeah, we do. We need to realize that no one's come to save us. I agree. Okay, I absolutely agree. We definitely need to. We definitely need to wake up to that as well. So I'm not against that at all. I'm not against that at all as well. You know.
We got to be patient with our women because we created that personality. We created that, and then we want to act like we didn't play a role.
We have to be held accountable for their poor selection.
No, you have to be held accountable. No, you have to be held accountable because they have a poor selection. See, what you're saying, you're selecting a poor mate. And what I'm saying is they don't have much to select one, so of course you're going to end up with a poor mate. And why is she going to end up with a poor mate? Because we as Black men are not raising Black boys to be the men that our women need. We are not. They out there killing themselves right now. What we doing about it? Unemployed Black males, what we doing about it? Pants sagging, weed smoking, what we doing about it? Black men are not raising Black boys to be the men our community needs. That is 100% our fault. What I'm saying is she got a right to be angry with us.
Now, here's the issue that it's going to be very hard for people to fully understand. What we're talking about is community responsibility versus individual responsibility, right? The problem we have at the moment is that we have a community that is toxic at the moment, right? And unfortunately, that comes when you are economically at the bottom. When you are economically at the bottom, this is the biggest issue you're going to face. You're going to face a scenario where people is a dog eat dog world. And those who make it out don't want to look back. Even me, myself, sometimes I do not want to look back and be like, I want to help y'all niggas. Because I'm still surviving myself. That is the reality of the situation we're in right now. That we are still surviving. And so sometimes it's very hard to look back and be like, let me help everybody else out because I'm still surviving myself. Shoot. Now, you may see all the money, you may see the wealth, you may see the riches, but we're still surviving. And so, unfortunately, this can sometimes play a part into reason why people don't want to go back and reach back into the hood. Some people have done it and been burnt. He himself knows himself, even doing a school, he's been burnt by it, right? So yeah, no, I think I think in reality, what he's describing here is a corporate responsibility versus the individual responsibility. It's not my fault that a woman chooses a bad man. It's not my fault. It really isn't. I didn't birth him. You know what I mean? I did not birth him, right? Individually, it's not my fault. I am not responsible for your ass and your ass's choice. But as a community, if we take it as a community, because we're meant to be leaders, okay, all right, because we're leaders, all right. Unfortunately, yeah, not unfortunately, fortunately, because we're leaders, what that means is I am responsible. Do you see what I'm saying to you? Right? I'm not responsible on an individual level because I didn't make you choose what you chose. Whether you're a woman or man, if you chose bad, that's individually your issue. But it becomes a community issue because now you affect the community. Okay? We affect the community. All right? So it's very difficult to be able to tell some people, especially some black men now, because you have to break it down understandably what it means. Individually, you are not the problem. As a community, we are. But it's hard because it's like, if that guy is 20 blocks away, what's it got to do with me? Well, here's the truth. If I hold the next person on my right-hand side accountable, and he holds that person on the right-hand side accountable, and etc., 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 we get to the 20th person. The problem is if someone breaks the link in the chain. If somebody breaks the link in the chain, then what happens is the chain suffers, right? The team is only as good as its weakest link. The chain is only as good as its weakest point in the chain. And so, unfortunately, what we have, what we're saying, I should say again, fortunately or unfortunately, how you ever look at it, I think what Dr. Umar's really talking about, what Dr. Umar's really talking about is there has to be a community focus as well as an individual focus, right? But you need both. There has to be individual responsibility on choosing better, but as a community too, there has to be aspects of what we do to help build the community as well, to help facilitate some of these better choices. Okay. So I get again where that issue is coming from as well, right? So you need to be able to do I love that, good girl, macro and micro levels of aspect of it, right? So we do have to hold women accountable on a micro level. On a macro level, I'm to blame. And certain men don't like that, but that's the reality of the situation, right? On a micro level, you are to blame, ladies, right? You, for your own decision making in your own life, you are responsible. If you choose somebody who is not well equipped, if you choose a man that's lying, if you choose a man that's on this, if you marry a man that's did it, then you are to blame. But on a community level, the onus then comes onto me, right? The onus is now on me, because if I don't build your character as a man, if I don't build other men's character, if I don't check other men for when they're moving mad and going wrong, if I don't say something, if I don't speak up, then guess what happens? We have a situation where the community fails, right? Because and I've said this before, right? That if I have a guy here willing to play women on purpose, lie, cheat, steal, manipulate, and I don't say anything, yeah, I might not say anything now. It might not be my person now, but what if he has sons and then you have a daughter and your daughter meets a son? It's going to come back around to you eventually. That's the community we're talking about. So this is also important as well, the role that we have to do. That's the important part that needs to be done. But that yesterday was a great example of how we hold people accountable. We had one person who disagreed. We're not going to kick him off. He was respectful, and Logic was respectful, and he articulated his ideas very clearly. Whether we agreed or not was irrelevant, but we did disagree. And then we had myself, Sean, we even had Link, right? 3 men talk to him and say, bro, we see what you're saying, but we don't agree, and here's why we don't agree. Now that's needed. See, that's what's really needed. So when you have those conversations, right? You know, it's part of the issue. You know what I mean? We have to be able to respectfully sometimes agree to disagree, and sometimes we might go our separate ways. Malcolm X and Martin Luther King, I don't think they would have agreed on everything, but they had a common goal, so they could work together in some aspect. But I'm sure when Malcolm X is saying we're gonna fuck some shit up, that Martin Luther King was like, that's not my thing. Okay, but we needed Malcolm X to some shit up. Okay, we need some militancy to help what we're doing, right? So yes, it's important to have those aspects too, because they see things differently. But can those men say, that's not how we want to do things? And that's accountability we're talking about, right? That's accountability we're talking about. And I've expressed this to you as well. I've said this myself. You know, you know, that everyone has to take accountability. Yes, I hear what you're saying, says Maria Cox. I hear what you're saying. So you're saying you don't know the man is bad until he's in your life and start acting bad most of the time. You think men walk up to you and be like, hey, girl, I ain't ish, by the way. Well, we can say the same thing about white folk. You know, we don't always see everything they're doing. We don't always see that they have a nefarious plot and plan. But you have to be wise. See, Satan is doing the exact same thing as always, still kill and destroy. So as an individual, you are responsible for your life. As a community, I have to be able to teach my sons, this is not the way we behave. I have to teach my sons and anybody who else I believe that I have authority over to be like, hey, that's not how we roll in here. That's not how you behave with women. You know what I mean? You don't disrespect them. You don't cheat on them. You don't manipulate them. You don't lie to them, right? You give her the truth. And if she wants to deal with you in that way, let her deal with you. If she doesn't. You know what I mean? That's my community responsibility, right? But individually, you are tasked to discern, which means you have to start learning what are the tricks in the trade. Now, this is where fathers come in, and it comes back. This is where the cycle comes back into being, where it comes community. Because as a father, how do I speak to my sons and how do I speak to my daughters? How do I educate my daughters too to be aware? Right now, of course, my daughter's going to always try to make her own decisions, and she may even get played once or twice and understand, but she'll get wise because once she realizes it doesn't work, she goes. Once she realizes it doesn't work, she goes back to the original training, right, that she's been taught. So it's both communal, macro, and also micro, right? This is what family units are for. This is why we need to be going back to saying we need people to be very much aware. Negroes, zip up your pants. If you know you can't put a condom on the end of it and you're creating families, this is why I get so annoyed. Because on a macro level, you cause the micro. This is what Dr. Umar is actually saying. On a macro level, you caused the micro. Now, on a micro, you are still an individual who's responsible for your choices. If you choose a guy who's is a bum and is this and that, you are still responsible. It's your life. But on a macro level, if we don't teach and we don't preach and we don't love and create families that are stable, we end up creating the micro that we're seeing. So let me just play a bit more of the video and I'll come back to some of these questions and points as well. I'm sure you guys have lots to say as well. So yeah, appreciate you guys being involved in this conversation.
She got a right to be angry with us. We have not been on our job as black men. If the men are the providers, what have we been providing for our community? I'm not speaking you individually.
Yes.
Because you may be a damn good father. You may be a damn good father. You may be a damn good father, but guess what? What are we doing for the community? What are we doing for the children who don't have a father? You don't think the black woman got a right to be angry when she's been raising 2/3 of the kids by herself for 50 years? And the minute she raised her voice, we say she's not humble enough? She had to become masculine to survive the rape, the molestation, the domestic abuse. Are you telling me you can't see how we created that?
I understand that, but she needs to be
we was loving our women and taking care of our women. Do you think she would be like that? That personality has a history.
If she's picking Pookie Ray Ray instead of
you're making her a scapegoat.
No, she's picking scapegoat.
No.
There's good quality men that they ignore.
Why she even got it? Why is there even a Pookie in the selection?
I mean, Pookie's always going to exist. So at that point, I don't agree with at all. Pookies will always exist. That's got nothing to do with you being black or white. It's Pookies exist. They've always existed. There's always going to be bottom feeders. That is life in general. But what he's making a point here is, you know, again, you know, in a situation of a community, unfortunately, we have very much segregated communities. So, unfortunately, you know, a father of one family may have to take on the role of being a father in other families too. And I think that's what he's really kind of talking about, the men coming together to create that family. The problem we have, though, and the difficulty, that I won't say the difficulty, not the problem, the difficulty we're having is that people are 2, 3, 4 removed. What I mean by that is and this is where it comes back down to men on a macro level. This man sleeps with a woman. Her family is not intact already. She hasn't got let's say she sleeps with a woman, hasn't got a father figure. It's her and a mum, right? He sleeps with her. He leaves her. He abandons her, right? His brother was never close to the girl because there was never meant to be a relationship there in the first place, or he's just a bad and generous guy, but whatever, right? His family's not close to her, so now the uncle's not involved. The brother, any uncles or brothers, whatever, are not going to be involved with that child's life, right? She hasn't got any male family figures on her side. Now it's created a space and a vacuum, and on that it's very difficult, right? Very, very difficult. So this is why I said that it takes macro and micro. Every man must look after his family. And that also includes that if you're my brother, I may have to take on your children if something happens to you. Right? I may have to take you on as an individual. And if every man looks at it that way, then we can solve a lot more issues. Number 2, we have to be smarter than this. Let me just put this right. Listen, I believe there are women out there, and I know because they're doing it right now, right? There are definitely women out there who are tapped in the mind, who are wanting to have children without the father figure. I don't want to debate that. I haven't got time to debate it. We've debated it before. There are women out there who are literally out there. Then there's a bigger portion of men who I am gonna say, you downright know you don't want no kid of that girl, but you went roaring her. This makes no sense, right? This makes no sense, right? This makes no sense, right? If you downright know you ain't ready to be the father figure for this child or this woman, then you need to start being responsible with your penis, because single mothers don't make themselves. They can only be made by men who are irresponsible. So you have to take accountability on a macro level with your leadership, because men are called to be leaders. You are failing the community when you decide to go up in her raw and then she has a baby. And whether you feel like you don't have no power or say in that situation makes no difference. You know what I'm saying to you? Right? It makes no difference. Okay? All right? So that is no different to anything. Right? If you're going up in these women raw, you're creating the problem that we have in our community, and you're talking about these women are single mothers and hard-headed and masculine. Yeah, because they are a problem, and so are the men who are sleeping with these women because they're leaving them and not doing what they're supposed to do. So these men also too have to take accountability. As a leader, there is a greater responsibility on your shoulders that when you enter with the penis, okay, you're gonna wrap it up. Okay? Yeah, that's what I'm saying. You're gonna wrap it up. Okay, wrap it up, because you're creating more issues. Okay, all right, just that's what I'm saying. Okay, so for me personally, the micro gets, and this is what Dr. Umar's really touching upon, is that the micro is beginning from the macro. It's beginning from the leadership aspect and the failures of that aspect. That's what trickles down. So if you're out here and you know you're sleeping with a woman and you know you're sleeping with her raw, you're causing issues. Right? You're causing issues. So that's the big thing that we have right now. Okay. All right. We have a big thing like that. That's a lot that's happening. You know, but Pookies and Rares have always existed. Those Negroes have always been there. That is the absolute truth. They've always been there. Okay. All right. Okay. So this is the truth.
You gotta accept it.
No. I'm gonna tell you why there's a Pookie in the selection.
What?
Because black men have abandoned black boys and have allowed social media, white media, athletes, and rappers to raise them. That's why she with Pookie. If we never allowed Pookie to develop, she would not have a Pookie.
I love that he's saying that, but it's not true. Pookies and Rares exist forever. They exist in every community. because there are always going to be stragglers who cannot keep up with the rest of the community. It's unfortunate. It's real life. They are on the same side. There's what we call white trash on the other side. There are always going to be those people on those sides, on both sides. So Pukas and Rurets are not the problem. The problem is that your leaders, our leaders, my leadership, my community, because there's always going to be, okay, all right, there's always going to be some extra people that are going to do some mad stuff. You know, there's always going to be people that are going to do mad stuff. Always. They've been there since beyond the time of memorial. But what is important is the leaders have to drag the rest of the group that are willing to follow out of that place, so that the Pukin Reres then become what we call outsiders. Okay, but they always exist, and they're going to continue to exist. They exist in the white community too. All right, trash people. And the more individualistic the society becomes, the more easier it is for the Pookies and Reres to exist. What's important, though, is families existing, teaching their children and teaching their people, you know, as well. So that aspect is, you know, so that's the aspect. Pookies and Reres are always going to exist. We're not trying to get rid of them, but what we're trying to do is make sure the men are actually, there's more men who are greater leaders who follow a code of ethics. That's what I would believe to say.
If we're going to be men, the first thing we got to do is take responsibility for why our women feel the way they feel.
I can hear that.
I'm not saying that they're right to disrespect, because even if a woman disrespects me, right, that still don't give me a right to disrespect her, because she's still the queen of the community. Even if she's not acting like it, I'm going to give her that respect. But when I hear brothers talk like this discourse we having now, we act like we don't understand.
No,
there's reasons for that shit.
I do understand. Women are so valuable. You get what I'm saying? Like, I think women ground men and help them, you know, propel to the next level. I think men get further in life with a woman, right? But when if I'm a hardworking man, but I'm only looked as resources, and then she's ready to jump on Tom, Dick, and Harry because he got flash, he's shining a little bit more, his access to money is quicker than mine. It's kind of hard to have that.
Well, no, one, I agree with you, but that's not all sisters.
No, it's not.
And if you're constantly running into that type of woman, then the problem is you, because you're attracting a certain low vibrational energy. Why
not have that same energy for women? You just again, you held the man responsible.
We having a conversation as men.
Yeah,
I got plenty of interviews with all women where I check them too.
All right.
But as a man, you should not be concerned about what I say to them. No, as men, we should be concerned of what we're going to do to produce a better generation of black males for tomorrow. That's the only, that is where we should be focused.
Women bring the choice of life, right? We understand that, right? I can't have a child unless a woman agrees.
And she can't carry one if you didn't put it in her.
I agree with that 100% too, right? But whether or not, if you want that child or not, she can still make that decision. It's only
if you don't put a seed in her, nothing else happens. And no woman can make you put a seed in her. So the original act was the responsibility of a man.
True.
I can't disagree at all. There it is. That's the reality of the situation. If you're gonna be putting your seed in somebody, you are responsible. You know what I'm saying to you? You are responsible. I cannot defend any person who says I was trapped and you don't wrap up. That makes no sense to me. Like, unless you poked your condom, which is then rape, it's just different. Okay, that's rape. That's different. Okay, then you are responsible, and it's very rare, and it's very, very rare, very, very rare that ever happens that a woman pokes your condom, and that's what happened, and you now have a kid. Let's keep it a buck, okay? Because I'm a man, I know exactly what happens. I've had those moments where you're like, I just don't care right now. I'm gonna go in raw, and I'm gonna do what I'm gonna do. And you've had moments where you didn't want to pull out. Let's just keep it a real. Let's keep it a buck. I don't want anyone to, unless a woman's lied to you and told you on the pill, and even then, you are still responsible. You should have never. You should have still wrapped up. Some of you guys like pleasure too much. but you trust her way too much. But even then, you know, you're putting your life in the hands of somebody else. And that's the part that is really a problem here, right? You have to be honest with yourself and say, where's my responsibility, and how can I have control over my life? And part of that is, if you're gonna have sex with a woman, why would you put your trust in her taking a pill, right? And her taking a pill and you know, and that happening. Nah, Dahlia, if she pokes a condom, I'm sorry, there's no way around it. There's no way around it. It's rape. It is what it is. And I'm not even gonna try and say that he's irresponsible at that point, because you raped me. But again, the only thing I would say is, everybody if you're gonna be having sex like that, you should be wearing a condom. That's the reality of the situation. It's as simple as, right? If you put your trust in her to do that, then that's your business. You know what I mean? That's just your business. I can't, you know, I can't, you know what I mean? I can't. So, like, and it's very rare that has ever happened. How many stories do you know of women poking condoms? It is so rare, it's ridiculous. Do you get what I'm saying to you? It's so rare, it's ridiculous. So no man should be out here using any kind of excuse like that. You downright know that you brought your own condom, or you didn't bring a condom at all, and you went up raw, okay, and then you did what you did. So I'm not going to deflect from the fact that it's your responsibility as a man. And this is why we're saying that as other men, when the men try to run away, I can't allow you to have that safe land with me. I can't. If you don't take care of your kids, you are not going to see me as a friend. I've now become your enemy. Right? I'm now going to become your enemy, because there's no way I'm going to be like, bro, safe, done. You know, you just, no, bro, what? You don't look after your kids? Yeah, we got a problem. We got a problem. And that's how men should look at other men. They should be a pariah in the society if you don't want to look after your kids. Yeah? You should. You are a pariah. So we don't want to accept any kind of nonsense like that. You know what I mean?
I mean, all right. So did black men willingly leave the household, or was it the system that was?
It was systemic.
All right. So how, if we giving them grace for them having to do it without us, but it wasn't our fault, how are we not getting that same grace and that same respect?
I'm gonna tell you why.
Why?
I'm gonna tell you why. Because black men, as the leaders of the community, now
we can't be leaders.
Here's the question we got to make.
That?
Here's the question. Because the argument y'all make, feeds into the feminist agenda.
Okay,
it's an argument that says, I don't want the responsibility.
I'm a leader.
I don't want to fix shit.
See, it's my thing. Okay, which is why I disagree with the boys. So he said women don't want leaders, and I disagree. And I already said this as well. If you're a man and that woman doesn't want to take your lead, why are you with her? Right? Why are you with her? You know what I mean? Right? Why are you with her? Men are leaders. I disagree, Mary Cox. Men are leaders. Now, the situation is, if you're going to be dating a woman and she does not want you, if she doesn't want you to lead, stop going with her. That's the advice we need to give men, right? This is my honest advice to any man out there. If you are a leader and that woman doesn't want to follow your lead, don't date her. Don't marry her. Don't date her. Don't marry her. Let her find her own way or find someone else, right? Leave her alone. I've already told you guys this situation about people that say, you know, I just need a great man that, you know, is a good leader, and I'll just fall in line. No, you won't. No, you won't. You won't fall in line, right? You need to, you know what I'm saying? Like, so leave that woman alone. Okay? Leave that woman alone. Okay? There are women who do want leaders, who want effective leadership, who want a man that's going to lead with love and lead with care. And I'm not talking about iron-fisted leadership. I'm not talking about authoritarian type of leadership. Okay? All right? I'm not talking about those ones. Right? Kaden Pat says she doesn't need a leader. That's fine. Then we don't need to send the men your way. So it's fine. You know what I mean? I won't send the men your way. That's what I'm trying to say to you. Like, we have to keep it real simple. If you don't want a man as a leader, fine. I won't send any man your way. I'll tell them to avoid you and go elsewhere, because we don't need the situation happening again. What we need is good leadership, and what you also need is also to understand not every woman wants to be led. That's fine. Don't go near them. But what will happen is certain men will be like, they'll see this and go like, she said she doesn't want a leader, but he'll go near to it and try to dominate it. Why? Why would you want to do that? Why would you want to do that? Do you get what I'm saying to you? Right? So the reality of the situation is, like, again, you're putting yourself in a situation as a man, as a leader. Why would you want to put yourself in a place where somebody doesn't want to really lead you? Okay, so leave that alone. Go where you can lead and lead effectively and not dictate. You need to know the difference. And again, that starts from homes. How do fathers lead in their homes? Because that's a major thing. You know, that's a major thing. You know, that's a major thing. You know what I'm saying to you? Yeah. You know, so yeah, it's a real thing. So yeah, that's a major thing in that respect, right? So like for me personally, not every woman is going to resonate with my type of leadership, right? Because my leadership style is more coaching style of leadership. Not every woman resonates with that type of leadership. You know, do you get what I'm saying to you? So you have to go where you believe that this person can love and appreciate your leadership. Some leadership styles don't work with certain people. You get what I'm saying to you? Some leadership styles don't work. Exactly, Jeffrey. Some leadership styles don't work with certain women, and that's okay. That's okay. Z said, I hate taking opinions from a man I'm dating. I must say I don't want to be led. It cemented it. I really need more egalitarian. Let me ask you a question, Z. Do you hate the leadership? Do you hate a man leading you because you're hurt, though? Or is that generally how you actually feel? See, if you genuinely, that's how you feel, that's different from you being hurt. Because no matter what you do, you're going to be in a situation. So if you don't want him to lead you because you're hurt, that's completely different. You see me? Yeah. So so yes, it is it's also important, right? You know, so yeah, it's a real thing. So for me personally, you know, I think if we're gonna drive the community forward, like he said obviously that, you know, men are not leaders, they are leaders. And where they should be going is, if their person doesn't want to be led, don't go to them. There are other women who want to be led. And also work on your leadership. What is your leadership style? Are you an authoritarian rather than somebody who leads by making sure they lead in love? You know? You see what I'm saying to you? You know? Okay.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna fall back and let her run everything. That's what the feminists tell. They say, look at them,
Yeah.
making excuses for why they can't be better men, making excuses for why they can't make better men. You understand?
Mm.
Your argument feeds the feminist narrative.
That's
and it's
not
dangerous.
what we're making
That's not,
excuses
that's
for.
what we're not. I'm saying I am the better man, but
Yeah.
I shouldn't be held responsible because you wanted to choose a Pookie and a Ray Ray. That's not me. I work too
And
hard
I'm
in
gonna
my
go back
life.
to what I said. Pookie and Ray Ray shouldn't exist. And the only reason why Pookie and Ray Ray exist because we're not in the community making those boys the men they need to be. Do you see that? And she don't get a Pookie if you didn't allow a Pookie.
But she got an Eli. She ain't come to Eli. She went to Pookie. And that's what we're trying to say.
She wouldn't have had a Pookie if we didn't allow one.
I worked too hard in my life.
Right. She wouldn't have had a Pookie if we didn't allow one.
But
I see both points of view, right? Like what he's saying is, if we make better men, you're gonna have less, you know, it's gonna have less, what do you call it? If the men in the community worked on providing stability financially, emotionally, mentally, spiritually for their families, they don't create the Pookies and Ray Rays, right? But the reality of the situation is Pookies and Ray Rays exist because man is sinful. So they're always going to be Pookies and Ray Rays. But in the percentage wise, you can reduce the amount of Pookies and Ray Rays when you're focused on the community and producing solid men. That's essentially what I think is being said here and I get it. He doesn't want to be held responsible individually for the community issue, but the reality is as a leader, you become responsible for the community, even if you don't want to be responsible for it, which is kind of annoying, but it is the reality of life. You know, it is the reality of the life situation. You know, so yes, in that aspect, there is accountability on our part, right? So yes, I hear what he's saying. Yeah. So yeah, there's those aspects too.
Umar, we
Men supposed to make the raise the boys.
right. We
Rites
as
of
men,
passage.
let's holding other men accountable for the same thing that you talking about right now.
What are we doing for the young brothers in the street? So
What you mean, mentoring them? Now I mean, he's a great father.
Mm-hmm.
I ain't talking about that's individual. That's good, but that's individualism.
Yeah.
What are we doing collectively as men to change the trajectory for black boys in the streets right now?
I
Nothing.
We're being
but
a voice.
talking shit.
Yeah, I mean, you could take
it's
it. It's
not going to get better unless we put hands on deck. The reason the athletes and the rappers are the role models is the professional black man moved out the hood. Where the dentist at? He ain't in the black community no more. Where the lawyer at? Where the business owner at? Where your city council person at? We abandon black boys, and then we blame black men for poor choices in mates that they should not even have to make if we did a better job raising our boys the right way.
See, I don't believe that. See, I disagree with that, right? Because what he's talking about is economical struggle, right? Everybody moves out the hood, whether it's a white hood, black hood. When you change your class and your financial status, everybody moves. That is not the issue. The issue is, how do we keep our family together? We're struggling economically, and we're struggling from a family perspective, a moral society issue. The doctor, the dentist, all of that, they always move. I'm hard pressed to find, and you will always find doctors in the hood. There are many doctors in the hood because they can't afford to move out. You know what I'm saying? They don't make enough money, or you know, your dentist, whatever. But when people get a certain amount of money, they always move. Right? You know, they always move. It is not about those men coming to stay in the hood. What it is, though, is about educating. Right? What it is, though, is about educating. And that's where he comes in. That's really good. That's why I love Dr. Umar, right? It's about educating. The reality of the situation is, right, once you get a bit of money, you move. White people do it. Asian people do it. Black people do it. Everybody does it. The issue we're having, the issue we're having is education, because these people need to know there's hope for them to be able to come out of where they are, right? The kids need to know there's a hope of coming out of where they are. You coming out where you are is important, right? You not staying there is important, because more than likely you're going to get caught up. If the doctor gets killed in the hood, the hope that he has dies with him. No offense to anybody in the hood. I'm just saying and keeping it real. I'm from the ends myself. I know exactly what happens. So, and the ends is the hood for us as well, right? You know, so irrespectively, right? If the doctor in your area gets killed, his hope goes with him. So we're not talking about people having to stay in the hood. What is needed, though, is the economical education of those people in that place now beginning to what? Expand. That's what's needed. I agree that point, right? But again, what was that based upon, though? See, white people don't do that. This is what I'm trying to say to you. So it's not, we don't need you to be in the same place that everybody is in. That's not going to cumulatively bring success. If our white counterparts are succeeding with them not having to have doctors in their own suburbs or in their own place, what you call it trailer trash, you don't see doctors in a trailer trash area. Yet they're prospering. We don't need them all in one area. What we do need is that, again, what we do need is education, economically, right? We need people to have hope to see that you can make it, other than just being, again, and we spoke about this last few months ago. We said the problem we have is that people don't even know the avenues they can go down. All they know is a basketball player and the sportsman. That's all they know. And without there being education in the hood or education in the ends, education in the places that we be, there needs to be education in terms of what can you do? Where can you go? How do you thrive? Can you do a job can you get money that is not necessarily just gonna be, right? Just gonna be literally it's just gonna be literally sports and movie stars. Can you have more than that? Or is that all you can have? That's what I'm saying. Someone said Jews in America, most of our races stay in their own community. Jews, Arab, etc. Just build each other up in that community. I mean, yeah. I mean, again, I mean, Jews is a very specific culture as well as a faith and religion as well. So I'm always very cautious about that. But even that comes down to what we quote unquote call class, right? Because you're hard pressed to find a Jew that is broke, and you're hard pressed to find a Jew that's alone as well. They move in their swabs. So yes, that's partly true. The Jews do. Arabs, same thing again. You will find that as well, and it's and you'll notice that Jews and Arabs are very tied in close to their faiths. Fortunately, we don't have the same thing. We don't have the same thing, right? So, and again, it's slightly different when you're talking about Jews and Arabs. I think it's slightly different as well, right? When you're talking about black people, and the reason why I make it different is because, like I said, if I see another model that has worked without having to do that, doesn't necessarily mean that we need to have doctors in the hood. No. And then can you go to the place where the Jews are, where there is a hood? I don't know many. I don't know if in UK we don't have any. I don't remember. I don't know any hood with the Jews in. You know what I mean? I'm talking about in the European face. You know what I'm saying? So faith plays a very big part of it because it creates the family and the unit. So this creates the environment that they have to thrive, right? I say this again, that's really important, right? Now, I think some of our issues are, again, and if you look at the Jews, if you look at the Jew system, their focus is number one is family. North London, yeah. I see what you're saying. North London, yeah. I see what you're saying. And again, we're coming from a different perspective as well because of our history. But I think from us specifically, you know, I think specifically what we're talking about also is a class issue too. You know, a class issue too. Like, you know, when you get to a certain class level, what do you do in that class level? What's the objective of that class level? Do you reach back and help that community behind you? Do you keep going forward? We are very individualistic in this society. And I think that's the biggest issue, right? Both in UK and US, I think we're very individualistic. You know what I mean? So, I mean, I don't know. I didn't see one. PPP loan officer said he's seen many hoods with the Jews in. I don't know. I haven't seen many of those. Okay, so, you know, I haven't met many of those places. So, personally, I haven't.
The end of the day, if I'm gonna call myself a man, the ultimate responsibility for reconstruction of the Black community rests with me. Yes, they have a role. Yes, they have responsibility. But as a man, as a leader, to say I can't fix this shit unless she changes, that's not the definition of a man.
I don't see. I think we're on two different accords. Like, I don't think we're saying that. What I'm saying is, I'm capable of being that leader, that provider. I've worked hard in my life. You get what I'm saying? I should not have to do. You
still go back to individualism.
But I only feel like we tell Black men that we have to now deal with masculine women with children.
Why is she masculine? Because she's had to raise the kids alone. Not one woman,
So
brother.
tell me,
a whole community.
So you mean to tell me the only woman I could look forward in my life is a masculine woman that has kids by other men?
No,
that's what I have to look forward to.
But I'm telling you, mistakes made by black men systemically gave rise to the conditions that allowed her to be masculine and made her end up with a man that you consider to be less than what he should be. And I'm telling you, black men are responsible for her being masculine because we have not helped her raise them children. When I say help them raise them children, I don't mean you as the stepdad.
No, yeah,
I mean you as an active member in the community where we go to every single parent black mother and say, how many sons you got? 2? How many sons you got? 2? Well, guess what? That's your son's big brother. That's your son's big brother. He taking him to school. He doing the homework. He gonna spend a couple hours with him every Saturday. He got his own kids too, but he gonna make time for you. She got masculine because she had to become masculine in order to deal with the rape, the abuse, the domestic violence, the disappointments that men had in her life, and also raising those kids and have to take care of herself all at the same time. The black woman has been the be-all, end-all in our community for half of a century, and now we want to turn around and say because she didn't do it perfectly enough or remain feminine enough when she had to absorb our responsibilities plus her own, that's insensitive and disingenuous.
I don't believe.
Yeah, I can't.
I mean, I guess I do understand what you're saying.
I'm not taking nothing back from that.
So, so the struggle this conversation is that, and I think it becomes very hard, right? Separating the two between separating the two between the community and the individualism. If you don't separate, a lot of men are going to struggle. Because this is the same conversation I had when it comes to when women say that men are scary, and then men get annoyed because you are making me as an individual feel like I'm scary when I know I'm not scary, right? So you have to make it very, very clear, and it's very hard sometimes. You have to make it very clear that there is individual responsibility and there is corporate responsibility. In the corporate responsibility, many of us, including myself, have abandoned post. So because we've abandoned post as a community, on a macro level, we suffer. Individually, we might win, but macro level, we might suffer, right? So the reality of the situation is that when Dr. Umar is saying what he's saying, the reason why the men are resisting his point of view is because they feel like he's blaming them, even though he's saying it's not them. When you say men, you're including me in that, and I'm struggling to see what you mean. He just needs to say, listen, and he kind of said it, but on a corporate level, you are responsible. But on an individual level, and he said it earlier on a little bit as well, he did say it a little bit earlier on, this is not your fault. But on a corporate level, as men, if you don't hold this person accountable, he doesn't hold that person accountable, he doesn't hold the person. The chain of events that happen when people don't hold somebody accountable next to them is that it causes there to be a breakdown in the community. That's the issue we're having, do you know what I mean? So the two things are true. The two things are true. There are women in the community, regardless of what you've gone through, that are going to be masculine. And there are men that are feminine. Let's just keep it real. You can't talk one without the other. There are men in the community who are feminine due to being coddled and not given hardship. And there are women in the community too who are masculine. Now, we know there are history to that. We know there are things that are to that, and I understand where each individual is coming from. But the reality is, on a community level, that's where Dr. Umar's really hitting first. It's like, as a macro level, you need to think that what are you doing to contribute, to help, to make sure that the micro doesn't suffer too. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Tell me something that we've done systemically to combat that. Because you keep saying me and her. I don't care about me and her.
But there's plenty
women and men. Mm-hmm. Women and men as a group in the community. You understand?
Right.
We gave birth to that. You see? So you say she had a couple kids already because she met men. She probably thought they was good. Some of them, they left her.
She knew they wasn't good.
You don't know that, bro.
She knew they wasn't good.
You're making assumptions about her. Would you make the same assumption if she was a white woman?
Yes, I would.
So you say.
No,
No, that
Come
would.
on, man.
no.
Nah.
So you say.
Come
We
on.
don't
Hold
hold
all
man.
women accountable.
So you say.
Listen,
Come on,
like I said, I feel like as a black
We
man,
don't hold them all accountable because black men date outside their race more than every other man put together.
I said we.
Y'all three.
Yes.
Okay.
yeah.
I
But
can't disprove that because I don't know you personally.
Even that,
But
if we look at the numbers, black men marry black women at an 87% rate, where black women marry outside of their race, or they marry outside at a 92%.
black women
That's
do
only
not. No, you're
that's
wrong.
percentages
You're
apart.
wrong.
That's not that much.
Black women do not marry out the race more than black men.
I'm
That's
not
wrong.
saying that, but the percentages
Black
ain't that
women,
far off. That's what I'm
black
saying.
women have one of the highest, fastest growing interracial marriage rates. But her interracial marriage rate pales in comparison to what black men have been doing interracially for 4 or 5 decades. You understand? She don't even come close to what we're doing interracially.
Black fathers are in the home more than any other group or race.
Okay. But what
That has no value?
it does have value, but we're going to put that up against the other statistic. 2/3 of our kids are being raised by the women. 2/3 of our kids are being raised by the women. And like I said, when I say being raised, I'm not saying it needs to be a father. I would like a father in that house, but I know it's not enough of us to go around.
Yeah.
We are not even being accountable to the boys in the hood. And we're complaining about the women
I argue with women
who
all
are
the
making babies
Yeah,
with the irresponsible men that we didn't raise correctly. That's bullshit.
all right.
That's wimp ass weak man shit. Take responsibility for our shit. Stop scapegoating them.
Yeah, I could agree. I could agree to that.
All I'm saying is look at all we could be doing better, man. Half the black boys in the 4th grade can't read. What black men doing about that systemically?
Not enough.
I know what I'm doing about it. I'm building
agree.
a school for it, 2 of them. But systemically, as black men, what are we doing about that? Nothing. Black boys are the most unemployed teenager in America. What black men doing about that?
Not
See, the
as much.
Pookie and Ray
Not
Ray
as
you
much.
kept talking about? We letting them raise right before our eyes, and then we want to criticize her for ending up with one when we should have made sure there were none.
Listen, we all got choices. Just like if I choose to live a lifestyle,
You're dealing with individualism again. I can't
but that's
deal with
part
that.
of choices.
No, it's not. We have to deal with this systemically. He brought up a question earlier, and he said, did we make these problems on our own, or was there some systemics involved? It was systemics.
Okay.
In 1970, they shut down the factories. They took out the industrial building jobs. 1980, dropped off the crack and the AIDS. 1990, the Bill Clinton crime bill. There's systemic factors at play. You totally divorce your analysis from any systemic factors at all. You ain't mentioned one. You can be talking about her and Pookie and Ray Ray with the kids. You ain't said shit about the systemics. That's exactly what white folks want you to do. That's what white folks want you to do.
I'm saying that
ignore
I have made
what I've done to your women and scapegoat her. Because that's what she's doing to you. She's ignoring what the system did to you. And she's going to scapegoat you.
And
We're both scapegoating each other.
Okay, that's fair. That's
Your
fair.
analysis is feeding the gender war. It's not solving it.
Listen,
I don't mind us holding the
Right.
women accountable. I don't mind us holding the men accountable.
right.
Yeah.
But when we're going to hold the system accountable as well.
That's fair.
And if we're going to hold the system accountable, that also means we got to make our own systems too. Black men have not been manly in quite some time when it comes to raising boys.
How would you suggest that black men?
I mean, that's a good point, right? Again, he's talking about system. Talking about systems. In the reality of the situation, because obviously we're part of creating systems or building systems that are going to work. Look, how it works again is responsible men make a big difference. For instance, let's give an example, right? I'm even just thinking about it myself as well on a level on this YouTube space, right? In this YouTube space, right? We have right now 230 people on this live, right? Predominantly women we have, right? We have predominantly women in this space, right? If we have a man come in this space and he starts talking wiggity whack, red pill nonsense, ba, right? Not only will the women get on him, but the men that are in the chat too will get on him, right? Those who are active, my trades and, my links and that and Sean and them's, you'll see how quickly they get on him. And the reason being is because the system that's been built allows for those men to be able to have authority that when another man comes in or another group of men come in that are not going to play ball, they will be removed or they will be checked at the door, right? Now, that's really important. So if we take that as an idea, okay, if we take it as an idea, that you as an individual, you can actually create a system or even a place where there is safety for those people, right? And once you do that, other men come in and they follow your lead, and they also create systems and safety as well within the space of the community. One person has to create one. Apologies. It can start with one person. If you look for too many people, Annalise, we don't do that here. We shut down those people. You know what I mean? We don't. If you're rude, we don't do that here. Annalise, I think he hasn't. What's his name? Bruiser hasn't come back since. There's a few of them. They don't come back once they realize. Even Anton Daniels doesn't come back. Listen, because we don't play those games here. We just can't play those games here because it's not going to aid our community, right? So it's the same with our community. If one person decides to build something and others get involved, they help actually foster a community. And sometimes it just takes one person first to build something and the others will join. You get what I'm saying to you? Sometimes you have to build the lighthouse by yourself, and the light that shines, other people start to come and want to be involved. And that's just the reality of leadership. Sometimes you're looking for 4 or 5 people to join you, but by doing that, what happens is you waste time. Sometimes you just need to go and start it, and others will join when they see that the thing is moving, right? So, for me personally, on this aspect, when we're talking about relationships, for me, I hold both the man and the woman accountable, whether I like it or not. Like Dr. Umar is coming right now. He's talking real sense. It's Dr. Umar's talking real sense. The buck falls with us as a macro. We are responsible. So you can't. So when you see people going so hard on women and you're so vexed at them, you're acting as if they are the ones that are the leaders in the community, and they're not. The men are the leaders in the community. And if you don't stand up, then you leave gaps and holes for others to go. So yes, we will hold men accountable. Yes, we will hold women accountable. But the reality is, if you want your community to change, it starts by actually holding the men accountable and saying, this that you're saying doesn't work. You know what I mean? This what you're saying does not work. So Dr. Umar is absolutely right. The men need to be held accountable. And as you can realize, he shut them down.
Take on a role of leadership.
Especially when there's an attack on black masculinity.
Without women willing to listen to us. You get what I'm saying? How do we prove our worth or take back the leadership
care of the boys?
role?
You want the women back? Take care of these damn boys. They run in the hood, killing people at will, flunking out of school, following the lead of the gangster rappers. There's a whole bunch of stuff we can do that ain't got nothing to do with the women, boys and men. Do you understand? Deal with the boys and the men. Leave her out of it and go straight to the boys. And you'll get her respect back. Give them jobs, give them education, give them training, give them your time. They not getting none of that from black men. We don't give a shit about black boys. And then we're going to get mad at her for ending up with one later in life. It's ridiculous.
Like I said, we
product and get mad for her for ending up consuming the product.
I think even just and just even make it even smaller on a more micro, maybe a more macro level, whichever you look at it. Just their podcast alone is a part of the accountability issue we have. I'm not saying they're a bad podcast, by the way. Actually, I really like their podcast. I listen to them quite a bit as well. But sometimes the focus of these podcasts, and the reason why these podcasts blow up so much, right, is because they take one side. It's like it's a Cynthia G situation, it's a Kevin Samuel situation, it's the Fresh and Fit situation, it's the the red pill manosphere kind of situation, a pink pill situation, it's sprinkle with manipulation situation. It's all of these places that focus, okay, on trying to individualistically win, even at the expense of others, right? Even at the expense of others. So that's why oftentimes you come on these podcasts, they choose the same type of women that aren't educated, they're not smart, they're not people that have integrity, they choose the same type of women. And so I get annoyed because you're part of the problem. No offense to the rapper community, I like them, but they choose people who are part of the problem. I rarely see women on that show that are very well educated, articulate, and actually speak about some real deep things. I'm not saying they don't invite those people. I'm not saying they don't invite those people. I'm not saying they don't invite those people. I want to make it very clear. But rarely do I see that. Most of the time, you choose women that are a problem in our community. Like it's like you choose the airhead. You choose the pretty girl that has no sense. You choose a girl that can't talk very well. You choose a girl that that is wild and you quote unquote fits your narrative as masculine. So it fits the narrative and the story. So you are actually feeding the gender war. So when you talk about us when you talk about what am I doing as a community level, well, actually what you're doing is not helping the community. So actually what you're actually doing is feeding the narrative. So yes, Dr. Umar has every right to hold you accountable. I don't need you to go out there and go and get those young boys. You don't have to go out there and get those young boys because you already got them on your channel already. You don't even have to physically go out and grab them. You literally just have to go. Listen. This video. Let me show you something. This video. Let me show you something about this video. I want to show you. Look, this video has how many comments? 1,668. Okay, cool. Let's have a look at this. I'm going to show you something. They've already, listen, we've got Brian, Barack, Nigerian Boss Man, Zoe, 777, Flavor Genuine, July Jackson, it looks like, Devante, Bradley, Duante, Chase, Purple Cane, Taban, Maurice Foden, Anthony, King Math, Sean 1, 3M2 Legacy, GZ, Alicia, that's Alicia, Call Me Son of Curtis James, Buffalo Kid, Shad Reacts. We've got Carlel, Negro Damas. We've got, there's more. Goat Black, Shahid Dingle, Kevin Smith, Mr. G, Ephraim Williams, Max Headroom, right? I could keep going on and on. What am I trying to prove? You have so many men in this chat. You have 1,668 comments. A majority of them disagree with Dr. Umar. Right, the first 100 that I read, majority of them rejected what he said. What am I saying? You don't need to go even to eat. You don't even need to even run outside. You don't even need to run outside. You have a community already. You have men in the palm of your hands. Right? You have men in the palm of your hands. You could easily educate them on doing better and helping them grow and choosing better. But in reality of the situation, the reason why some of these men even come to this podcast is because you put the blame on women. That's just the reality of the situation. Like I said, I only need 20% of the men. I don't need every man. Okay? I don't need every man. I need 20% of the men. Right? I need 20% of the men. That's all I need to make a difference. So, yes, if we're gonna say about what you do for the community, yes, Dr. Umar's correct. What are you doing for the community? Because your podcast alone can reach so many men, right? And when they brought on Dr. Umar, so many people changed. Do you know what? I went on to Roommates podcast. As soon as Roommates podcast stopped doing Red Pill content, the men got angry, most of them, and they disappeared. Just went.
She could consume whatever she wants. I'm just saying, as a black man,
it's not about her consuming whatever she wants, brother. Because if we're trying to fix the black community, everybody and everything matters. It's not individual. You're an individualist. You're not thinking as a community. Your whole analysis is based on me and her. Step out of that shit. This is systems at play. You understand?
Right.
Multiple black men screwed up. Multiple black women screwed up. You understand me? Look at the systemic nature and say, what system do we need to create as black men to prevent the Pookie and Ray Ray from coming into existence?
And I think this is a key point that he ends on, which I think is a most important part, right? What do we end on is what part do we play in building up a system that aids that? And I'm saying that they've already got a strong podcast, right? They've got a good podcast. They've got a podcast that reaches so many men. They need to start putting out content that's not just about feeding the narrative that black women are masculine and they aren't this and that. and just keeping it real. Listen, how do we heal then? Okay, how do we grow from that? What is the way that we look at it differently? Okay, maybe we need to avoid them. That's fine. I hear what you're saying. So how as black men do we need to grow in this area? There just needs to be a bit more content around that. But if the content's solely focused on always taking shots at the opposite side, it doesn't benefit the community. It only creates more anger and frustration. Right? Only creates more anger and frustration. Every content I'm looking at seems to be about the kind of stuff that I feel like it feeds into the gender war. You feel what I'm saying to you? Rather than help heal or build the community. I'm not saying that everyone's perfect, and I'm not asking for perfection. I just think to myself, like, if the content is always going to be about blaming the other party, we ain't going to get nowhere. You know what I mean? The majority of men that follow are already married-minded. Yeah, and the reality of the situation is because they understand some of the they understand a lot of the message because they know they have to compromise, they have to work with the person, they know and see partnership. But I'm starting to realize, and some of the other lives, there's a lot of men who are watching behind the scenes. Ladies, I'm telling you, there's a lot of men who watch behind the scenes. They've been coming out slowly. My other live that we did with was it a few days ago when I did the Rebecca Lynn Pope, they were coming out, right? They do come out, they listen. A lot of these people listen because I realize that a lot of men are listening behind the scenes, not necessarily involved, but they're listening. Even that is good enough for me. Even if I can't see you all the time, I know that you are listening. At least I know that you're listening. And so that is powerful enough, which is why I'm saying that even their podcast is community. It's not micro anymore. What they're doing is no longer, they have 167 subscribers, 60K, 167,000 subscribers. I have almost 75,000 subscribers. I have no longer micro, it is macro. At that point, right? At that point, you are no longer micro, you're macro. You're now part of the community that's going to help build a system to change the narrative. Okay? So yes, Dr. Umar was speaking absolute truth. I cannot lie. Parts and parts I disagreed with, but he absolutely hit the nail on the head. And so if any man's listening, want to let you know that a lot of times it is the micro versus macro. You as a micro individual are not a problem, but we are as a collective a problem on the macro level when we don't create systems, as you were saying. And what that means is we're not creating spaces where we're not actually coming together, working together, collaborating to build better, right? So that other people, so that our community can thrive. That's it. You know what, Ludibird, you're right though. I mean, I should start reaching out to them. You're absolutely right. That's a good point. Maybe I can start reaching out to them, start having some conversations about it. You know what I mean? Have some conversations. That was a real conversation that they had with Dr. Umar. Absolutely smacked it. It was on point. Very, very real. As well. So it's what makes money, man. These kind of things, they make money. That's the problem. And people are trying to make money. So, but the reality of the situation is, and here's the thing. Shout out Trey. Like I said, he used to be a chat lurker. Shout out Trey. Here's the reality of the situation, that you want, I used to hear this from certain, sometimes you have Christian influencers who be like, when I get to the top, I'll start talking about Jesus. And the reality of the situation is you won't, because what was making you money is going to continue making money at the top. And that was without Jesus. The same can be said when it comes to these issues about the community. Are you waiting to get to 1 million before you start talking about how you can heal the community or how you can improve the community? If you weren't doing that at the base level, if you weren't involved in a gender war from the base level, right, you're not going to be involved in a gender war later on. Okay, all right. So if you're involved in a gender war, right, at this level, you'll be involved in a gender war later on, or whatever makes money at that particular time. Okay. So, you know, your integrity starts from the very beginning, and your character and your disposition. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's a madness. It's tight. Yeah, listen, you know what? If they invite me, man, do you know what I mean? I'm always open. Listen, y'all can do me a favor. You can message them, let them know. I'm always ready to have a conversation, ready to get involved. You know, I always want to have a conversation. Cruise season, I like their stuff. They do quite a bit of good conversation. So, you know, so it is, you know, let's do that aspect well. Well, I mean, listen, I got what 20 minutes left, so I will open up the thing. I got 20 minutes, guys. I'll put the link in the chat. If you want to have your say, maybe there's a point you want to make, I'll put it in the chat. Got 20 minutes or so. Put me your perspective. Let me know what you think. If you have a say as well. So if you want to say something, please. You got 20 minutes in between that time to let us know your thoughts and your views. And we'll be back later on. Don't worry, because we got a live later on as well. So we're gonna have a real conversation. So yeah. Let me know your thoughts. If you have a conversation, maybe. Let me. Trust and hope. Trust me, Lulu. Absolutely. Absolutely. It's not easy out here in these streets, man. You know. Jason, I do this all the time. Yeah, we're bringing them back, Elsid. Next week, we're back, man. Back next week, Elsid. We're back on the 2nd July. Back. Definitely back again. Let me see, because actually I want to be able to, let me see if I can, I know I wanted to talk about some things, because listen, Dr. Umar's thing is serious, man. He was talking about the school that he did as well, which let me see if I can get that part, because that was a really good part of the conversation.
Speaking of that, you know,
him building the school, he will tell you what he was facing. Like, there are systematic things in place that are literally fighting him, trying to build a school up again, right? So I don't know if let's see. Yeah, I can go to here.
The church is the second largest owner of real estate on the planet Earth. White man told me this. So he called me back. Rome said, we can't give you the school.
Right.
The Roman Catholic Church refused me to lease the school in money earned in Mount Vernon, New York. In other words, the school could have been open years ago, but we kept on getting savage.
Is that because, do you feel because you are a black man trying to purchase
because
that?
I'm Dr. Umar.
Yeah, what he's trying to, you know.
Remember something Napoleon Bonaparte said during the Haitian Revolution? When Napoleon said, we got to crush the Saint-Lô Overture on Jean-Jacques Dessalines, one of his subordinates said, Commander, why are you so interested in destroying the Haitians? Is it to prevent them from destroying our investment on the island? He said, nah. We must stop in the Haitian Revolution to forever prevent the march of blacks forward into the world. The Haitian Revolution wasn't about the Haitian Revolution. It was about white supremacy. They can't let me succeed because they don't know how far I will go. You see that? When white people see a fire, they put it out. You feel me? Who is this black man coming up here who can afford to pay this type? What black man is thinking about opening up a school for black boys independently? Now, you might do LeBron James, public school you just give some money to. You didn't buy, you didn't build it, you don't own it, you don't control it. Puffy, get you a charter school. Jalen Rose, get you a charter school. I'm not doing that. This is independent. We own it. Right? Then I went to Detroit, tried to buy public school. They wouldn't show me none of the public schools in good shape. Chicago, couldn't get none of the public schools in good shape. That's when I realized there's a national, there must be a national thing out.
Right.
He don't get no school. You feel me? We had the money and they still wouldn't sell them. So then finally, I come back from Benin, Togo, and Ghana. 2017. Remember the Great North American Eclipse, August 21st of 2017, which is my birthday, Nat Turner Day, Haitian Revolution Day, George Jackson Revolution Day. I'm on LoopNet. I see the school in Wilmington, Delaware. So this school looked brand new. I go to it on my way down to Nat Turner, came back from Nat Turner, went to Cuba to get my initiation. When I came back from Cuba, I finally got into the schools. I walked around. I said, you know what? These schools are modern. They in good shape. Did my research, found out these schools only 10 years old, 2 of them. They wanted $2 million. We didn't have it. We only had $500,000. But that was August and September of 17. We bought the school February of 19. So for 18 months, I stayed on them.
Right.
Can we get the school? Can we buy the school? Can we get the school? Buy the school? And then one day I said, can y'all sell it to us? He responded, give us what you got. I said, oh, I talked him down from 2 bills to
Right.
We got to school 2017. I'm happy, jumping for joy. Little did I know, the black contract is not going to give us any justice.
Yeah.
Man. We got robbed, we got scammed, man, our own people.
Which is unfortunate, yeah.
Very unfortunate. Then one day, last September, I said, you know what? I'm going to have to use white folks. I waited 3 years to try to get my people. We got to school in 17. We got to school in 19. I saw it in 17. We got it in 19. This is 2023. Right? So February of 19 to 20 to 21 to 22 to 23. 4 years. February, March, April, May, June, July, August. It'll be 4.5 in August. I decided to call up a white man. HVAC. He had both units on the roof in 2 days. Crane truck and everything. We already bought the units. We had them custom made. Right. So they've been sitting for a year. Brand new. Sitting. Because all the black HVACs tell me they're going to come do it. Never did it. So I called a white man to do it. He gets the units up right before the festival. I start scratching my head like, damn. Waiting on brothers for 3. This white man did this in 2 days? So then I asked the white man, I said, you know any plumbers? He said, I got a plumber for you. Boom. Electrician? I got him. Boom. Security? Boom. Fire come? Boom, boom. Wednesday, I go to the school to get the final HVAC repairs done. HVAC is on. We got air. We got AC. You got to do some final stuff to get the inspection. Once that go through, we done. I got to call the city, find out what we got to do to get our certificate of occupancy, because plumbing is repaired and inspected, HVAC repaired and inspected, fire, security repaired and inspected, everything. The only thing left is HVAC. And of course, we got to close up the holes and paint and do the floor. Superficial. Beautiful. But all the systems, once we done HVAC, we done. The sad thing is, 3 months really.
Hold on. Sorry about that, guys. My internet side split up.
3 years. It's the self-hate. It's not giving up on our people, though. Because when we go across the street to the Frederick Douglass High School, which is 4 times bigger, I still want to find some black contractors. I'm never giving up on my people.
Yeah, that's what
but I also have to face reality.
Right.
And the reality of the fact is we are so psychologically damaged that most of us find it almost impossible to do right by another black person. And these white folks, they don't even like me. Do you feel me? Right. They don't even like me.
But the money
But
talk.
they did the job and did it right.
Yeah.
It hurt. I'm like, damn. They just did it with no problem. Just came in, knocked it out, cheaper price and everything.
Listen, I ain't gonna lie to you. We've all seen it, and we all know it's true. Even in Ghana, when I was in Ghana, bruv, some of the shows that the Ghanaians are involved with, the speed that they're doing things at, oh my god, they're doing it so slow. I'm like, yo, brother, you know, like sometimes we don't help ourselves. I can't even lie to you, you know. And sometimes we don't help ourselves in terms of, again, systems and how to get things done in a speedy manner, excellence, you know.
If I would have just went with whites from the beginning, the school would have been done, but I couldn't do that because that's against what I stand for. So I had to try to use our people.
So with this being an independent school, does that mean you can implement your own curriculums?
Absolutely.
So what kind of curriculums are you plan on teaching at this school?
Well, you got to have math, science, language, and social studies. That's required.
Right.
And then on top of that, we're going to have agricultural and agronomical science, dietary and nutritional science. We're about to buy some farmland right now. We're also going to have political and military science. We will be teaching African martial arts, weapons training too. There will also be spiritual and astrological science. I practice Yoruba spirituality. We will teach it. The school will be a bona fide independent parochial academy. We must have a religious instruction there, spiritual instruction. It will also be dietary, nutritional, agricultural, agronomical, spiritual, and astrological, military and political, science of the black man, woman, and child.
Right.
So we're going to teach the boys how to be men, how to be gentlemen, also how to be men, how to be fathers, how to be leaders in the community. And then financial and economics, investing, real estate, stocks, all of that. We're going to have guest speakers every month for the boys from different industries. They're going to work on their own business plan. And when they graduate from the school, we're going to give them their grant for their first business.
That's dope, yeah.
That's
well,
we're
we're definitely going to clap it up for that. Will there be, I noticed in China, they are actually teaching their boys, you know, they have masculinity classes in a sense, right? Do you think there is a need to kind of have a masculinity course for our young black boys?
I don't know exactly what their masculinity course entails.
Right.
But our science of the black man, woman, and child will likely cover that.
Okay. That's fair.
Because we believe in the divinity of the black man and the divinity of the black woman. So that's part of it.
Sure, we might need some classes for some grown adult men to be taught how to be.
If he can pull this off, it'll be amazing. Now, he actually spoke about the difficulty of him trying to get a building. He said that, you know, he went to several different places to try and get a building. They stopped him from trying to get it. Roman Catholic, the Roman Catholic Church, Roman Catholic Church was against it and stuff like that, and they didn't let him buy some of the schools and stuff. So, you know, look, there's a lot of things that are going to stop him from being able to do what he wants, what he needs to do for the community, and that's real. We are very much aware of that difficulty as well. You know, so look, he's got a tall order to make. You know what I mean? So it's tough, man. It's tough. People are going through stuff and they're trying to break certain boundaries and molds, and we know there are difficulties, but that's the difficulty out here, you know. Yeah. So Lena Q said, Lord, about my nephew in Ghana says he follows his Nigerian friends when it comes to success in business. Ghana takes me more time. Yeah, Ghanaians are too chill, man. Can't lie to you. Nigerian people are on point when it comes to business. They know exactly what it is and what they have to do. I can't lie to you. When it comes to Ghanaians, we just too chill. Way too chill. And it's like we're not on point. You know what I mean? With Nigerians, they're on point when it comes to their business. They don't play with games. But sometimes as Ghanaians, we do, man. I know, honestly, we do. And yeah, we're not about it. But listen, I hope that the school comes into fruition. It takes a little while, but I hope it comes into fruition, you know, because once he gets his 1, 2, 3, 4, once you can get one off the ground, it makes it possible for other people to believe they can get others off the ground. Do you know what I'm saying to you? It might have taken a little bit more longer than most people liked, but once he's got one off the ground, you know, there's more coming. You know what I'm saying? There's more coming as well. So anyway, listen, that was the first part of our conversation today, guys. We appreciate you lot. We'll be back a little bit later on for you and talk some real stuff. So much love, much appreciation. We'll talk soon, guys, as well, right? So it's going to be interesting next few hours, all right? Not on my